For decades, the headlines have been mourning the death of faith. They pointed at boarded-up windows and empty pews as proof that we've become a cold, secular desert. Gallup reported the recent drop in U.S. religiosity among largest in world. The percentage of Americans saying religion is important to their daily life dropped from 66% in 2015 to 49% in 2025. But they're looking at the wrong map. The truth isn't that people are losing their souls, it's that they're losing their taste for the institution. We're not witnessing a disappearance, we're witnessing a migration. In 1972, only 5% of Americans said they had no religious affiliation. Today, that number has surged to nearly 30%. These are the nuns, and if you're watching this, you're likely one of them. You haven't stopped seeking, you've just stopped seeking there. But before we find out where we're going, we have to look at where everyone is currently camped out. Welcome to the Altarless Traveler, a space for the spiritually curious, the questioners, and the deconstructors. To understand the nuns, we have to stop thinking of them as a monolith. If we took a room of 100 typical Americans, about 29 of them would now identify as religiously unaffiliated. But if you ask those 29 people what they really believe, the room gets loud. It's a massive, messy umbrella. To make sense of it, researchers usually split these 29 people into three main campsites in the wilderness. At campsite 1, we have the atheists. In our room, that's about 5%. Most aren't angry rebels, they're just unconvinced. They've traded the creator for the cosmos. And there's a tinge of spirituality. In fact, 18% of them still feel a deep sense of connection to the universe. At campsite 2, the Agnostics, that's about 6 people. They aren't sitting on the fence, they just think the fence is located somewhere humans can't see. Spicy fact, 62% of agnostics say they believe in a higher power, 30% in nothing, and 3% believe in the God of the Bible. So overall, they're leaning towards belief. Finally, campsite 3, the nothing in particulars. This is a giant messy middle, 18 out of our 29 people. This is where you find the SBNR, spiritual but not religious crowd. SBNR, meaning isn't found in a book, but in a connection. 71% of this group believe that parts of nature hold spiritual energy. And 72% say their primary spiritual goal is connecting with their true self. They haven't stopped believing in the soul. 69% of nuns still believe we have one. They just think the soul is too big to be kept in a building. Though we can't pinpoint an exact number, this group also contains the religiously indifferent, the Apatheists. To them, the God question is like the political structure of a planet they'll never visit. Interesting, maybe, but they've got bills to pay. What else can we say about the nuns? For 44% of them, their childhood religion just wasn't important. The church didn't lose the argument, it lost the room. This shift usually starts the moment we step out the front door. Pew data shows 81% of parents with kids at home say their children share their religion. But as soon as those kids leave the nest, that number plummets to 64%. That's a 17-point leakage the moment the choice becomes personal. You can't hand down a why the same way you hand down a last name. For 42% of people, it wasn't a crisis of faith. They just drifted. It's less explosion and more evaporation, a slow motion realization that the pews didn't feel like home. But here's the hopeful part. For decades, we were told that leaving meant losing your moral compass. But 78% of nuns say they can be deeply moral and lead a meaningful life without any religious affiliation. We aren't abandoning our values, we're just moving them to a wider landscape. We're realizing that being good isn't a regional tradition, it's a human one. For me, there was no lightning bolt. It was more like a slow leak in a tire. You don't notice it at first, but then after a while, you're kind of driving on the rim. This drift started early. I was a devout Catholic altar boy, swinging the incense and wondering if the adults around me, could they truly believe these stories? Did these adults really believe Jonah lived inside a well for like 3 days? How about the talking donkey in Numbers? Did they believe that? I mean, I love Shrek, but I didn't think it was a documentary. But the real friction for me wasn't the miracles. It was the morality. I couldn't square a loving father being praised for his willingness to ask Abraham to sacrifice his own son, and Abraham being willing to do it. That wasn't faith to me. That was insanity. It's a common misconception that nuns are simply people who grew up without a religion. In reality, Pew Research found that 78% of us were actually raised in a faith. Most of us didn't leave because of a scandal. We were already drifting. But the scandal certainly hit close to home. The priest at my childhood church, Father Texar, was eventually convicted of the kind of betrayal that leaves a permanent scar on a community. Seeing that happen to the place where I'd once been an altar boy didn't start my exit, but it was a grim confirmation that the holiness I was questioning was often just a mask. I realized I wasn't just leaving a building. I was leaving a system that to me felt completely out of touch with reality. As I headed off to the University of Texas, my world started getting a whole lot bigger. That moral compass I was told I'd lose didn't just vanish, it stayed right here, guiding the way. Meanwhile, the saved people around me felt smaller. From the student treating souls like a cell's quota, to the girlfriend whose parents viewed my Catholicism as an evil to be cured. The math wasn't adding up. Then life took me to Kuwait, Cyprus, Thailand, and Israel. I saw Muslims showing immense generosity, Buddhists in deep peace, and Jewish families in Jerusalem who lived the Old Testament but saw Jesus as a footnote. I realized that every religion thinks their religion is the only one with the map. But from the outside, the borders look arbitrary. And when my twins were born, yes, we did the right things, baptism, communion, altar serving, but when they eventually told me they didn't believe it, I had to admit to myself, I didn't either. We didn't burn the bridge, we just realized the river was shallow enough to walk across. We left the altar, but we held on to the sacred in the ordinary. Maybe the point was never to find a new house for our faith, but to realize we belong in the open air. Being a nun isn't a void. It's an invitation to trade easy answers for honest wonder. If you're out here in the messy middle, I promise you, you are not alone. There are millions of us finding the sacred in the ordinary. Please like, subscribe, and drop a comment. I'd love to hear from you. Where are you currently camped out? Thank you, and keep the faith.